Welcome to our 5 on 5. We're pleased to welcome in the publisher of the Rogue Valley Times, David Sommers. David, good to see you.
Thank you, Craig. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming in. So 1 year now.
Oh, gosh.
You guys have been operating. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What's been the biggest surprise or maybe the lesson learned?
The community support. It's tough launching any newspaper, let alone a local media organization in today's day and age. This is a tough business, but the community support, just the desire in the Rogue Valley, Medford, Jackson County, and across Southern Oregon to have a newspaper back was really, it was a good show of support.
Mm-hmm. The Mail Tribune shut down suddenly last year after 100 years in operation. You guys really came in quickly.
Very quickly.
You know, is the demand still there for a local newspaper? And how were you able to do that so fast?
I think that the signs had been there for a while that the Mail Tribune was going to be exiting the market. Well, the ultimate decision was sudden. The signs were there. And the support from across the community, including KOBI and others, to help us get off the ground quickly is what made it a success. I wouldn't recommend anyone doing it again, going from 0 to 60 in 5 weeks, but we did it. And I think that's also in part because of the nature of where we are as a community, is we are so separated from any other major metropolitan area that this is a community that really craves what we do and wants local news. And so the support was there from day one. I think one of the most remarkable moments was seeing the image of hundreds of checks coming in the mail every day for new subscriptions before we had even put the first print edition out.
Mm. And you guys are maybe less than 1/10 of a mile probably from where the Mail Tribune was.
Right.
And then, of course, you have some former people who are on that team.
Sure.
How is the RV Times, for people who don't know, different from the Mail Tribune?
I think the biggest difference is the flexibility in our business model. We do have a print edition, which is lucrative, and certainly print is not dead, but we are a digitally focused audience. 85% of our readership comes through us digitally. And so the fact that we're thinking first digitally and we're using the print edition to sort of curate the best of our journalism is the difference in the model. We're much leaner. We are smaller. We'll hopefully grow as we continue to grow financially. But the biggest difference is by getting rid of a lot of just the historical ways of the way that a newspaper operated and modernizing that business model is what's helped make us a success.
All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll have much more with David in a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back to our 5 on 5. Again, we're here with the RV Times publisher, David Sommers. So, David, obviously something you and I have been working a lot on lately, this Asante story, yours and our teams,
Sure.
Really at the forefront of this, the police investigation into alleged drug diversion at our RMC. I want to ask you about your recent editorial. You shared with readers, I'm summarizing it, this story isn't one that is good for the Rogue Valley. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I wrote that editorial. It's rare that I write editorials, but I wrote that one because of the importance of what Asante means to our community. The healthcare infrastructure in Southern Oregon is a hallmark of our community. It draws people in here. The overwhelming majority of Asante employees, we know, care about what their work is. We need Asante to be okay for the health of our entire community, both economically and the jobs that are there, over 6,000 jobs. And there's been a lot of tough questions that have been asked. Transparency is going to be key for them, and this is a story that you and I, that both of our news organizations are going to be following, not just for the days and weeks to come, but months and years to come.
Mm-hmm. And certainly, it is a difference between television and news print. The editorial aspect of that is, I personally have obviously connections to Asante through my family, not myself, but it is an interesting one. I'm glad you did what you did. It's been a challenging week in newspapers. I got to ask you since you're here. LA Times, Condé Nast, Time, and Sports Illustrated, some of the biggest names in news in our country, laying off journalists. How are things looking for you guys as you're continuing to try to grow, but also seeing some of these devastating cuts in the business?
It's been bad news all around. If you look just in Oregon, 20% of Oregon's incorporated cities no longer have a local news source. There are 3 counties in Oregon that have no local news source. There are 25,000 fewer working journalists in the United States than there were before the pandemic. And we're averaging the shutdown of 3 to 5 local newsrooms a week. That's not a good trend line, whether it's the LA Times or the Rogue Valley Times, in any community of any size. I think the difference in what is going to work here for us and any local newsroom is having flexibility in how things work. Journalism is a public service, not just a profit-making business. You have to understand both of those responsibilities. You have to understand that you have to bring in more than it takes to operate what you do, but you also have a commitment to democratic society. What we do here and how we do things differently is what's going to set us apart from what's been happening in those layoffs and all those other companies.
Good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Greg. I appreciate it.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.